dive in now. Nikki and Dublin, welcome. Govind and Sydney, welcome. So Stanford MSx, accelerating as an entrepreneur. So we're not going to go into too many details about the Stanford MSx program, but so we all start from a singular place of understanding. So the Stanford MSx program, it's a 1 year, it's a full-time, and it's an in-person on-campus program. And it's intended for mid-career individuals. So those that have a minimum of at least 8 years of professional work experience. And you'll come to the Stanford Graduate School of Business and you'll graduate with a Master's of Science in Management degree. And during that 1 year on campus, you'll have both streamlined business fundamentals and general management, but then you get to customize that experience with over 55% of the experience through electives. So if you have entrepreneurial interests or pursuits, that's really where you can take advantage of quite a bit of the Graduate School of Business, but also some of those other classes over at the D School and across Stanford University. You get access, of course, to every GSB club and activity, and it's also quite family friendly. So you have the same access as our MBA students, and you'll be surrounded and studying next to your peers who roughly have about 13 years of average work experience, and they're coming from all over the world, from at least 30 different countries. So again, these are just the foundational blocks of the Stanford MSx program. As an entrepreneur, let's understand how Stanford GSB can be a game changer for you. So at the first and foremost is you're going to learn the process of how to evaluate an entrepreneurial idea. And one of the ways that you do that is through courses. So there's over 60 courses that are about entrepreneurship, and they can range from skills that you need to develop. So if you need to learn something about marketing and entrepreneurship or customer acquisition in early stage startups, there's classes for you about that. And then we have classes that are based on innovations in specific industries, such as biomedical or aviation or education. So the courses are where it's at. But then you'll have access, if you're interested, to this venture studio. So it's incubator-like resources that are ultimately there to help you learn the process. So you'll have experts available during office hours, 24/7 space, prototyping materials so you can make low resolution solutions and test with customers. But again, the Venture Studio is there to help you evaluate a new business idea. And you'll have your network amongst your classmates, amongst the alumni. And oftentimes our students say it's the easiest job to find customers to interview. There's a lot of willing folks in our alumni and our class network. Conferences, we have conferences on entrepreneurship and organic growth. And then of course we have the Center for Entrepreneurial Studies, which they can guide you on class suggestions. They have expert advisors. And so at the end of the day, what you're really doing by coming to the GSB is you're minimizing the risks. You're identifying risks, debunking them before you spend too much time or money on any particular idea. So you'll come, you'll learn, you'll fail fast, fail smart, and move on to the next thing. This is just, again, a slice of one resource that's available to all of you on our GSB website that can help you identify some of the range in our Stanford entrepreneurial courses. So without further ado, I do want to invite my panelists to please turn on your cameras and turn on your microphones. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. And I would love it if you can go ahead and please introduce yourselves to our audience. We'll start with Michael and then go to Claudio. Just tell us where you're from and something interesting about you.
Sure, thanks, Danielle. And hi, everyone. So my name is Michael Sedin. I am from Atlanta, Georgia, but I came from New York City. As far as something interesting, this isn't the most interesting, but it's relevant. I grew up playing soccer. I basically didn't play enough while I was in New York, and I'm playing a lot here. I haven't, we have this incredible access to this resort campus, and I'm actually going to get beaten up by some undergrads once we wrap up here. So we'll see how that goes.
That's awesome. Thanks, Michael, for doing that after tonight's webinar.
So I'm Claudio Mifano. I'm from São Paulo, Brazil. and I grew up playing tennis. And while at Stanford, I heard that there was this tennis club. I got there asking the undergrad guys if I could join. They looked at me, you know, a bit overweight. They didn't put a lot of, you know, trust on me. I ended up getting a spot at the team. We went to play on Raleigh, North Carolina. I was one of the players. We ended up in the 16th place out of 64 universities. And being like the oldest guy first, I was the guy who rented the car, because if you're older than 25 years old, you get a discount, and they were all like 19. And also they were telling the other teams that I was kind of their coach, but they would let me play just to be nice with me. But that was, you know, I played because I played well, and we did well. So it was an amazing time I had there.
Oh, geez, Claudio, man. All right, let's go to Prashant and then Anna, please.
Hey, hello everyone. My name is Prashant. I am originally from India, but you know I've lived in a lot of cities, almost like 15 cities between here in US and in India. I grew up playing cricket, but I don't get to play cricket as much here in Bay Area. So I've started playing beach volleyball, which I think I'm getting better at now.
Excellent, Prashant. There's a nice beach volleyball course on campus.
Yeah, there are a lot of beach volleyball courts here, and we do play every Friday evening.
Excellent. That's awesome. And Anna.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anna Neverova. I was born in Moscow, grew up in Tokyo, but have called New York home for the past 18 years. So I'm in New York right now. And when I left the GSB, it was a very emotional moment. And I thought I'm not going to come back, but I've been back. It's been now 3 years since I graduated. I think I've been back 14 or 15 times. I just keep coming back. So I now call Palo Alto part of my home as well. I grew up doing karate, not like playing cool sports like you guys did. But a fun fact, I love watching industrial equipment and cranes. So New York is home. I just walk the streets of New York and stare at cranes. So different but weird fact.
I love it. I thought I was the only one that was not athletically gifted on this call. So I'm glad to know, Anna, we have our own awesome quirks. So just diving in, just to give us a little bit of grounding, I would love to start off with ways that you might be or have engaged in the entrepreneurial culture at Stanford or Silicon Valley more broadly. Who would like to get started? No pressure. Anna, kick us off, please.
I'll kick us off. When I came to Stanford, it was really about people for me first and foremost. I knew I was not going to be an expert. I came from New York, investing background, private equity, investment banking. I knew I was not going to be an expert in a lot of things, but I really wanted to build meaningful, trust-based relationships with people who were experts and who are just now a phone call away. So at Stanford and beyond, every single day of my life, I rely on my classmates for advice, feedback, and ideas. So for me, Stanford is first and foremost is people.
Thank you, Anna.
Yeah, I would just build on that, you know, in addition to that, I think that, well, first of all, as far as the culture question, you can't really avoid it. It's everywhere. It's on everyone's mind. You know, it's just exciting to be around. But as well as our classmates, I think, you know, we have really unique access to our professors, and that's really the bridge between campus to Silicon Valley that you're asking about, Danielle. They have us at their offices, they have us at their houses, they introduce us to people, and it's a very safe space to go approach a professor with anything that might be on your mind or any idea that's as crazy as it might be.
Thanks for adding that, Michael. Claudio, were you going to say something?
Yeah, sure. So I came from a hedge fund manager background, so more like a code and more spreadsheet focus. I got into Startup Garage course where I met one of my co-founders, and you just have this network of professors and other guys that come in and offer them as mentors. So like one of them that became a mentor was the founder of forgot the a decacorn, a company that it's worth $10 billion right now, came from Startup Garage. The guy was a mentor. So this is the kind of people that you get close to, and when I want, I just send an email to him nowadays, and he's still available for me. So that's the kind of network that you build, and it's just invaluable.
And just to add to that, Daniel, I think I completely agree. The entrepreneurship culture, it's everywhere. It rubs on you even if you don't want it to. and to give an example, like this quarter, I took a course which was about starting up businesses in developing economies, and it was like we got to meet entrepreneurs from Africa, Asia, Latin America, and just it was such an enriching experience understanding how the startup, how starting a business differs between, say, here in Silicon Valley and a developing country.
Thanks for adding that, Prashant. Claudio wants to add something.
The startup, it's called DoorDash, and it's worth $13 billion. and it started at Startup Garage, and then the guy was there like offering mentorship, and that's it.
Thanks for remembering that, Claudio. Excellent. That was very, very helpful to understand. And I think, something that's interesting is that whether or not you're starting a company or you're joining a startup, there's innovation that you can do within corporations. So, and there's going to be courses and opportunities to do that. So even if you're not thinking of starting your own thing, there's that ability to bring the innovative spirit. And I think you find almost every single student at least takes one entrepreneurial class throughout the year. I think that's, we have proven that consistently. So I want to start off from Michael and Prashant. You guys are current students. Help us understand what that GSB difference is as an entrepreneur. And Claudio and Anna, what I'll be asking you is, how has it helped you form your companies? So let's start off with the current students, and then we'll go to our alumni.
I can get us started on this one. So I think the main differentiator here is, GSB, we have a wide variety of, from foundational to functional to experiential courses. And so someone who has been an entrepreneur may have an interest in a course that talks about scaling existing business. And for me, someone like me who aspire to be an entrepreneur, there is a variety of course choices where I can, try out my idea, design things, get guidance from faculty and industry experts. So I think this ability to choose between what fits your experience and aspirations is a big differentiator.
Michael.
Yeah, and then Daniel, I'd go back even to the culture point. I think it's just such an open and safe environment that, tinkering, experimenting, brainstorming is encouraged. And again, I came from similar backgrounds: New York finance, private equity, kind of old school industries where you're meant to kind of wait your turn. But once you get here, you're just in a space that encourages you to dream and experiment. And I think the students, professors, and all the extra resources like Venture Studio just create that safety.
And one thing that's cool is because you guys are mid-career professionals, you're bringing some of that professional experience to your ideas. So Michael, you were sharing with us that, one of the ideas you're currently exploring is a bit adjacent to your former experience. And Claudio, Anna, you guys can actually speak to that. So how did, GSB help form your company? How did it change your path?
Did you want me to start, or was that for Claudio and Anna?
Okay.
Let's have you comment, Michael, and then it'll go to Claudio and Anna. Sound
Okay,
good?
sure. Yes. So I came from real estate, private equity, and impact investing, all focused on the real estate industry. And I still have ideas about how those spaces could be changed, revolutionized, or incrementally. And I thought that I was going to work on raising my own fund. But really just by having an entrepreneurial mindset and approaching the real estate space, I was introduced to some MBAs who have since graduated that were working on kind of a tech-driven solution that solves one of the riskiest parts of the real estate life cycle and could be a big unlock. So I think some level of focus, but also an openness to surprises and meeting as many people as you can and hearing their ideas has helped me with a little adjacency.
Claudio, you're up.
Yeah, so when you're talking about like coming to GSB and thinking about starting something on adjacencies of your previous career, I came to Stanford thinking that I was going to start a digital bank or international money transfer. I heard about this startup garage course that was amazing in helping people learn about the process of starting a company. I crashed into a Brazilian team like that was already formed and accepted into the course. One of the guys ended up quitting the course, and I stayed with the other one who ended up becoming my co-founder. We explored a real estate idea that was his previous career experience, and in the end we ended up launching a startup in the healthcare space. So it's kind of like the mindset that I got there, like just where I bought with a bike and a backpack, and just like open-minded. And you hear these things in Stanford when you're breathing the air, that like the innovator comes from a different market where you don't know what's going on there, and you start questioning everything. And I kind of believe in that, so that's why I jumped in a different thing. And during the course, like you kind of have access to all the Silicon Valley people, especially if you have like your email, it's at stanford.edu, and there's alumni, Stanford alumni all over, all the C-level and board people and companies. So that kind of helped me through my discovery and research before launching the company.
All right, Anna.
And building on Claudia's point about stanford.edu and just the power of relationships that exist at Stanford, it's like you arrive, it's an amazing year, but I always felt like we spend a lot more time as alumni than we do, unfortunately, as students. So some of us intend to come back as DCI fellows, maybe. I'm raising my hand like 5 years from now. But it's really fundamentally rooted in profound relationships between people. So I joked earlier with the group here that I'm building a startup that helps other startups start up, which basically means I help founders find their seed early stage capital. I co-invest, and I hope to build a lifelong relationship with them and help them with financing. Because once you take venture capital, you'll have to continue doing that for a very long time. And fundamentally, I spend every single day talking to my classmates, either as experts, as founders that I work with. There hasn't been a day since I graduated when I didn't talk to my classmates, and so many of them are true friends. I think that's one surprising fact that we don't think about. A lot of us in their 30s and 40s come to school. We don't necessarily think that we're gonna come to form profound friendships, but that's another part. I think that building your network of advisors, your board of directors, your most trusted relationships you could go to, I think that was a surprising fact. And as an entrepreneur, that's probably one of the things that we need the most, is to have those trusted relationships. So I think for me, that's also unique, something I totally didn't expect to find, but true friendships and true partners.
Thank you for that, Anna. And just to kind of build, one of your classmates actually, I remember sharing with me that, if you're even interested in entrepreneurship or you want to explore that pathway, you want to put yourself in a pool where there's a high percentage of peers that are also interested to do something entrepreneurial, to more inclined to share, more inclined to partner. So I just to further your point there, Anna. All right, everyone, I want to go ahead and ask maybe one or two more questions, and then we'll turn it over to the audience. Michael, will you share a memorable learning moment from one of your classes thus far? And in what way did it make an impression on you?
Okay. Well, I think I would actually point to a real estate class that I took. It was a small class, not noticed by a lot of people. It was called Real Estate Politics Regulation, Regulations in Tech in Real Estate. And again, real estate's not the most sought after industry at GSB, so I kind of liked being part of that small world. But the founder and CEO of Zillow was a guest, and I was kind of sitting there thinking, wow, this is an incredible guest speaker for a 15-person class. And he shared that one of their goals is to use their tech to have basically a live bid on every house in the country. And that kind of opened my eyes to the potential for tech to be, more not disruptive. I don't like the word disruptive that much, but truly game changing in the real estate industry. And it also made me think of all the non-residential real estate that's out there that someone could be working similarly on. So I think just hearing from such an impressive, powerful person, in a candid setting, in a small setting, without even expecting that, was pretty special.
Does anyone else want to share a memorable moment that has stuck with them? Otherwise, Claudio, I have a question for you.
I have one interesting moment. I was at a class where the guest was Drew Houston, which is the founder and CEO of Dropbox, which is a $10 billion company. And one of the students just asked him, hey, you have such a commoditized product business and so on, and the guy, the founder of a $10 billion company, was seated with his legs above the chair, very chill out as a kid, and say, yeah, and he answered so smoothly, and so in one hand you have young student, which probably had done nothing special, questioning, but posing an interesting question for this such a successful guy, and he was really humble and explaining, and he could be aggressive and say come on, I have a $10 billion company. So that kind of shows the way everyone is humble, everyone gets other people's questions into take it seriously, and even if you're 20-year-old person or an older one, everyone is taken into account, and that was a great moment.
Thanks for that, Claudio. So I have to follow up with you. This is a separate question for you, Claudio. As an international entrepreneur post GSB, what do we need to know about that experience and setting up a company internationally? Obviously, we have high concentration in Silicon Valley, but help us understand your experience. You just were able to raise a successful Series A this last month, which was very exciting. So help us understand, please.
Well, I mean, first thing is the Stanford embraces you for entrepreneurship, and it doesn't matter what you've done before. And I came from this very more traditional background, so so I had everything that could make myself jump into this entrepreneurial path, going to design school and learning how to be more creative. It really changed kind of my personality from being more like a coder guy who looks into spreadsheet and doing acting classes, this kind of funny classes where you cannot say no, you have to say yes, and it's funny, but it really gives you sort of capabilities that pushes you forward. In terms of being an international one, I remember it was tough because the two ideas that I worked during my time there, they were not ideas that were fitted for the US market. So usually when I was doing my pitch, I spent half of it trying to explain what were the differences between US market and Brazilian market. So it made things tougher. But I mean, in the end, it was even more interesting because I was having to try hard, and I was seeing the US people maybe doing local stuff, which was a lot easier. But I mean, in the end, people are open for any sort of idea. I remember in one class there was an Italian guy who who started this Viking hedge fund. Is a $30 billion hedge fund, and he was like a previous GSB student like 20 years ago. So like you see these international people there and staying, and like one of our BNB guys. So really gives you the confidence and the space you need.
Thank you for sharing your personal experience. And I know that they're internationally, while a lot of our alums, both MBA, MSx, and even our SEP alums, the Stanford Executive Program, they also have clubs. And for example, in India, we have the Angels and Investing Club that are Indian GSB alums and also other GSB alums that are investing in startups in India. And I know Brazil has a very rich and powerful GSB alumni network there. So no matter where you are, you will be able to leverage some of those learning experiences. So last but not least, I want to just ask Anna, one final question to you. You've shared with us how you've leveraged your GSB connections, both on a daily basis, but as you continue now, was there anything else about the MSx program that changed your thinking and viewpoint?
MSx program, but I think also more broadly the GSB experience. I recently met a number of current students here in New York, current MBA students, and they asked me what is the one advice I would give to them. And one piece of advice was do as much as you can for your classmates, like intentionally give as much, because that's how you're going to get known, and the relationships you get to build while at the GSB in this most like trying, intense, important way, that's one in a lifetime opportunity. And that's something that will stay with you. So I can clearly see my classmates who got to invest in their classmates and their peers and overall Stanford community are the ones who are truly benefiting the most. I don't think that's the intention why they gave so much, but I think that's one signal and one differentiating factor. So just give as much as you can while you're there.
Oh, it's a great transition, Anna. Thank you for that. I'm going to turn over to our audience questions here, panelists. We have a question from Mark, who's asked, when you joined the MSx program, did you know you wanted to become an entrepreneur? And if not, when did that moment change for you?
So I can say one interesting thing is not about myself, but every single person that enters into GSB, even if you are pretty sure you're not gonna start anything, at some point you will start considering starting something. Like there's just no way. Like even like the person who is mostly like they think that they're not into the profile of starting something, at some point you like just say, hey, I have to start something. I know now I'm seeing all these things, I have all this, like the air that you breathe kind of makes you feel like you're prepared to do something. But other than that, I thought I was going either starting something or going to venture capital. I explore both things during the program. At some point I thought about getting a US company and expanding it to Brazil, something such as like Uber. There was a previous Brazilian guy that did there, so I pitched a few big startups to do that. But in the end, I was always with this entrepreneurship thing on my back, while at some point exploring some things. But it's so funny to see that at some point, every single person considers entrepreneurship path.
That's true. And it's encouraged that you should at least participate in one pitch competition during your time in the MSx program. Prashant, you have been asked, how did you approach your transition from technology to entrepreneurship thus far in the MSx program?
So for me, I mean, my whole career has been in technology. I have worked with various industry domains, and the one that has impressed most on me is healthcare. And even before starting my MSx program, I wanted to be within the health tech space. And I completely agree with Claudio. Like at the start of my MSx program, I was thinking whether the idea of entrepreneurship was there, but it wasn't as strong. Now it feels that if it's not if it's not us who are taking this step, then who will do it? So it's like a more profound, focus on entrepreneurship, and I want to do it, do it now. The transition is like my background in technology has actually helped me in formulating ideas and creating a design. Just to give a small example, last quarter I did a course with Stanford Children's Hospital, where we designed a solution for a problem that the pediatric endocrinology clinic was facing there. So it's like utilizing my experience and my background for problems that there are in the healthcare space today.
Great, thanks, Prashant. This is a group, the question to whomever wants to answer this one, but both Bobby and Tom would like to know the answer. If you had the opportunity to redo something during your time at the GSB, what would you do differently?
I'll take more across the street classes, because I remember in the beginning I planned to take classes at the engineering school, the med school, and I remember like hearing some guy saying, yeah, I didn't take any cross the street class, and I say, hey, how stupid this person is that he didn't took advantage of all these things that you have. And in the end, I didn't take any class cross the street because GSB had this full of 150 electives. I did actually I did some D school like small courses, and Startup Garage has the D school like theory in it, but I regret not doing like engineering and med school, so I'd advise you guys to do it.
Michael?
I would say I would offer some slightly counterbalancing advice, or just the reality to Claudio, which is like, I would advise don't try to do everything, because there is a lot. It's a short program, and I see people getting lost in trying to do everything, and a lot of FOMO, fear of missing out, in case that's not a widely accepted term yet. So a little bit of focus, knowing that it's okay to miss a couple experiences, a couple social events, makes it a lot easier to navigate.
Excellent. Anyone else want to add an answer?
I would definitely remove COVID from my MSx experience.
Smart Alec. We have a question asking about your favorite entrepreneurial course. Does everyone have a favorite that they would recommend?
I already talked about it. My favorite is the developing business in developing economies, starting business in developing economies. I really loved it. The people who were guests in the class from all over the world, it was a very enriching experience.
Excellent.
I mean, I believe Startup Garage I kind of already mentioned, and one thing that is interesting is that I believe everyone should take like this class, because even if you want to work for a large company, the way large companies innovate, create new products, new services, it's all about this sort of methodology. And I see, like, I'm in the board of a big company here, and then you see like the executives struggling to create this new things in this new ways. So even if you're not starting anything, like learning the methodology and everything, and being able to to get your hands dirty in a project, I think that will add a lot of value for anyone, either you're starting something or not.
Thank you.
I
Anna.
have two. I think one is expected. As expected, of course, is the touchy-feely interpersonal dynamic. I think it's immensely helpful in building teams, relationships, and the entire ecosystem of starting any organization. So I think it's an incredibly important class, in which I personally, I think, learned so much about myself, and had a privilege to learn so much about my classmates. And I think the second class is a little bit more tactical and often overlooked. It's called Managing and Building Sales Organizations. And I think if you're starting a company, building a company, it's all about building funnel with investors, talent pipeline, customers. And that's one class. It may feel a little dry. It might not have every CEO coming to your class, but it's just so tactical and important that I think everyone who takes that class is surprised how valuable it is for their journey as founders or investors.
Thank you, Anna. Michael, can I ask you a question? Because I know that you have some experience of this. So Sarat wants to know, to what degree do MSx classes interact with the rest of the students at the GSB, including our MBA students? Can you speak a bit to that, and then also your own personal experience?
Sure, and I think, you know, Claudio and Prashant both have startup garage experiences with MBAs, it sounds like. But I would say, you know, I would actually maybe just go back to probably the best advice I've received, which I think might have been on one of these sessions, Danielle, or in orientation, which is, you know, always ask, what can I do for you? Even if you're asking a favor. And I think, you know, the MBAs can use us a lot more than we think and a lot more than they know. So, you know, I met them again through the small world of real estate that I was focused on. They quickly saw the value in my extra experience that they hadn't had, and we started working together. And I also saw how incredibly bright and creative they were, and they helped shift me a little bit further on the risk spectrum and being an entrepreneur. So I think just remembering that there are people on campus that are willing to share and that may need something from you, and, you know, valuing your own experience is a big unlock to spending a lot of time with them.
And I would just like to clarify one, thank you, Michael, that was great. And I will say that, you know, in all of your elective courses, you are going to have MBA students in those electives. So you have the same access to the same faculty, the same electives, and they are also part of your clubs and other social activities on campus. Anna, we have a question for you from Najam. You mentioned how you keep coming back to the GSB. Does this transpire into more collaborations as well, you know, across different cohorts beyond your class year?
Yes, certainly. I feel super engaged. I'm based in New York, as I've mentioned. I'm one of the GSB volunteers for our New York chapter. I'm a co-lead for Women's Circle, which is an amazing initiative that has started I think 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, and really kind of took over the world and was replicated in a number of organizations. I feel deeply connected, and it's incredibly humbling to just see what students are doing and being helpful to them. So I think that's what gives me a chance to come back, but also just staying in touch with my friends and professors. Every time I come back, I probably get a chance to see one or two professors. Sometimes get into their class and just sit in the back and listen to what they're working on, what they're doing. So the environment, the ecosystem is very open. For those of you who have been on campus, you probably have seen how just inclusive, open it is. It's a unique campus. It's very welcoming. And I think that translates to how people build relationships in and outside of the classroom.
Thanks, Anna. Ashton's asked of our panel here, what stage in your business creation do you need to be at to get the most out of 1 year in the MSx program?
Anywhere. Like
stage zero.
Don't worry about this. Like, you can be like about to raise money. You can be like, I don't know, just don't worry. There's not like a sweet spot. Like the sweet spot is the GSP. So wherever you are, like, don't worry. There's not a best moment to go. There's one thing that I did notice is that there was one guy in my cohort that he had his company like starting. He had a co-founder. The co-founder was living in the Bay Area, and he like spent like a lot of time like building his company, which was like seemed okay, but he missed a lot of the stuff, and the startup like did not do well. And I mean, even if it did, like I think it better like enjoy your moment and take advantage of everything. But I mean, if you're starting a company and you want to go to GSP, like it better go than not go. But don't worry about like a sweet spot.
I would want to add that I think it can be very fruitful experience if you're in the fundraising stage, because the amount of conversations and access you can get as a GSB student. There's a lot of interest and curiosity from the venture community, just investors community more broadly. So you will get a lot of inbound interest, and pretty much any door will be open to you. And scaling a company will require a lot of missing out of what happens on campus. I think that like acceleration scaling stage can be from similar to Claudio, some of my classmates who were at a later stage building out their company. They had to really pick their battles and miss out on some things, but luckily they're very successful now. But I think anything related to building teams, fundraising, finding advisors is an amazing opportunity and unique to your experience.
Well, that was very fruitful. You also answered Mahua's question, so thank you for that. I want to be cognizant of everyone's time, so I'm going to combine these questions from Raphael and from Johnny, who wanted to know, essentially, what would you like to know if you were starting MSx today? And with so many courses, so many clubs, what recommendations do you have to maximize the entrepreneurship focus?
I think the one thing I'd like to know, Anna just touched on, which is at stanford.edu is super valuable. I would have started on day one being more aggressive with just cold networking, because there's only so many days in the year to use that wonderful email address. And I think as far as the courses, there are certain ones are the classics for a reason. So you don't have to, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can go with some of the well-known, reliable ones, like Claudio's been talking about Startup Garage. And then if you have focus areas, you can kind of splinter off into smaller courses that are relevant to your focus areas as a particular area grows in interest for you.
My answer is like, don't worry, things will get fine. I regret that I didn't take courses across the street. And I'm right. Michael said, don't take courses across the street. He's also right. Don't get too stressed once you get there, because you need to do networking with people in the Bay Area. They are in the board of successful companies. There's a lot of things that you can do. You won't be able to do everything, but in the end, it will be fine. If you take med courses, if you meet engineers, if you play more sport, just try to relax. There's some people, they get too annoyed and they feel a lot of pressure. I remember some of the guys, in 3 months, 4 months, they were starting to get worried about their next job or something. And I say, I didn't come here to, in 3 months, starting to get worried. I want to relax. Even if when I graduate, I need some more time to to debrief, to meet some more people. You can do fundraising during Stanford, you can do later, you can do networking later, you can do everything. So you have full of resources, and it will be amazing. There's no way you won't end the program saying, hey, that was amazing, and I learned this 200 stuff and I miss more 200, but that's fine. I know you won't do everything, but you will do much more than you can imagine. So just don't worry and trust the process.
And that answers Ali's question too. Man, so many fringe answers. It's helpful. Prashant, Anna, what would you recommend?
I'll echo what Michael and Claudio has said. I mean, don't worry too much about the courses, and once you are here, you'll figure out which ones suit best for what you want to do in your life. And I think networking is something that people who are relentless about it, they reap good benefits from it, because at the end of the day, it's all about people. It's all about people from who from the investment community, people who you would want to work with after you graduate from your MSx program. So just networking and making sure you interact with the right people is hugely beneficial, I think.
I think for me, I will quote while at the GSB, I think there was a question about unique GSB clubs earlier. And one of the experiences that I would cherish forever was being part of the investment club and visiting Warren Buffett. I previously worked for a company that's based in Nebraska, so I feel very strongly about the part of the country, and meeting him was just the most extraordinary experience. But it was really what he said that stuck with me, so I go back to that a lot. And he said his most important piece of advice was to surround yourself with people who are better than you, and don't try to change them. And that don't try to change them part, I think, is just so important. And that's what the GSB experience was for me, was being, its whole is greater than the sum of parts. It's being surrounded by people who are different, who are better, and who I can just embrace and love and call friends. And the second part, on a more interpersonal side, it's figuring out what my superpower is. So my experience for 1 year was learning what is it that I love doing and I'm so good at, and how can I turn it into a lifelong journey.
Excellent.
Just to
Claudio, did
complete,
you want to
like,
add something?
Yeah, do all the trips that you can do, you know, especially study trips, global study trips. I went to China with a bunch of people. I went to North Korea, I went to Hawaii, I went to like so many places. And those trips, like, you travel with 30 GSBs and like just amazing people, like you get to know a lot of people, like an amazing moment. So that's also like the network, but doing like amazing stuff.
Thank you, Claudio. I want to say thank you all very much for joining me today. Michael, you have a soccer game to get to. So Michael, Claudio, Prashant, Anna, you guys were all wonderful. Thank you so much for your insights and for joining us. I think this was, I speak on behalf of everyone that's joined us, so it was invaluable perspective. So really appreciated seeing all of you. For those of you who still have questions, you can always email Stanford MSx at stanford.edu. We will gladly answer your questions. I also am going to stay on for a few more minutes here if the panelists were not able to answer your questions. But panelists, I'm going to officially dismiss you and give you a nice little quiet golf clap over here. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of your evenings. I look forward to being in touch. Again, I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording now. You will have access to it. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.